Hey, everybody, it's Will Saletan from the Bulwark. Joe Biden has a new ad out this week, and he's going right at Donald Trump. He's hitting Trump where it hurts most: Trump's conviction in a Manhattan court on 34 counts of falsifying business records. Here's how the ad opens.
In the courtroom, we see Donald Trump for who he is. He's been convicted of 34 felonies, found liable for sexual assault, and he committed financial fraud.
Now, the first thing I want you to notice about these pictures is that they're all in black and white. All the color has been taken out so that Trump looks depleted and haggard. And what's that expression on his face? Downcast, defeated, glum. These images are designed to make Trump look small. All the vigor, all the life looks like it's been drained out of him. But now let's talk about the words. Listen to that first sentence again.
In the courtroom, we see Donald Trump for who he is.
That's not just a bland introductory sentence. It's an attempt to frame the whole election. Trump's argument about the trial in Manhattan, and for that matter, the classified documents case against him in Florida, and the racketeering case against him in Georgia, and the election fraud case against him in Washington, D.C., is that all of these cases are a sideshow. What really matters, according to Trump and his allies in the Republican Party, is the political world, where Trump is drawing big crowds and is leading Biden in a lot of polls. Trump and his allies don't want voters to focus on what happens in court, because in the courtroom, the rules are different. In court, you can't just spew propaganda and manipulate people with fear and anger and lies the way that Trump does all the time. In the courtroom, evidence matters. So when Biden says that the courtroom shows who Trump really is, the message is, no, these legal cases are not a sideshow. They're the only place where Trump has to answer to evidence and where he can't get away with his usual bullshit. And what do we learn about Trump when he has to answer to the evidence? Let's play that next line one more time.
He's been convicted of 34 felonies, found liable for sexual assault, and he committed financial fraud.
The key thing about that sentence is that it's not just about the conviction in Manhattan. It also brings in two other cases where courts ruled against Trump. One was a separate fraud case in New York, and the other was a defamation lawsuit about Trump's sexual assault on E. Jean Carroll. These two other cases were not criminal prosecutions. They were civil cases. So in those two cases, the courts didn't have to find Trump guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. They just had to conclude, and they did, that a preponderance of the evidence supported the case against Trump, or in the fraud case, against the whole Trump organization. But the overall point is that you can't just dismiss the verdict in Manhattan as a biased vote from a biased jury under the control of a biased judge. We now have 3 verdicts from 3 courts, and every time the judge or the jury looks at the evidence and they rule against Trump. The sexual assault case is especially important because it shows that Trump doesn't just commit complicated financial crimes like falsifying business records that are sometimes hard to understand. Trump and his supporters often say that there was no victim in any of his alleged crimes, no real victim in the business records case, no real victim in the civil fraud case. But sexual assault, technically under New York law, the jury found that what Trump committed was sexual abuse. That is a direct, personal, physical violation that everyone can understand. Then the ad switches from Trump to Biden. Here's the video.
Meanwhile, Joe Biden's been working, lowering healthcare costs and making big corporations pay their fair share.
Did you notice how the picture changed? Everything about Trump was in gloomy black and white. Everything about Biden is in vibrant color. The idea here is to show that Biden is not too old for the job. He's vigorous. He's out there doing things, serving the country, while Trump is just sitting there in court. And speaking of color, did you notice that Jim Clyburn, the most influential black congressman of the last decade, is standing proudly behind Biden in these pictures? That's a signal to people of color that Biden also cares about them. And it's no accident that you see hard hats and safety vests in these pictures. These are blue-collar workers. When Biden talks about taxing corporations and cutting the cost of health care, he's trying to reassert the old bond between the Democratic Party and the working class. Then comes the finale.
This election is between a convicted criminal who's only out for himself and a president who's fighting for your family.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
There's that word again, convicted. It's a reminder that the allegations against Trump aren't just a political smear. They've gone through an orderly, methodical legal process, and the outcome is that a jury found Trump guilty. If you're not sure which candidate is less fit to be president, the tiebreaker is that only one of these guys, Trump, has been convicted of crimes. Then we get to the other half of that line, that Trump is, quote, only out for himself.
Who's only out for himself.
In that mugshot, which was taken in Georgia, you see Trump staring defiantly into the camera. He wants to look strong and determined. But for what? Trump is determined to vindicate himself in Georgia and Florida and D.C. and eventually in New York. But the vindication is all about him. The point is that Trump isn't just losing in court. Even when he's fighting in court, it's not for you, it's for him, which may seem unfair since it wasn't Trump who decided to launch these prosecutions. But the most effective attack on a political opponent is an attack that is fundamentally true and is central to who your opponent really is. Donald Trump really is a raging narcissist. He can't stop thinking and talking about himself. And every time he gives an interview or speaks at a rally or posts a rant on social media, he reinforces the message of this ad. The only person Trump really cares about is the man in that mugshot. See you next time.